Welcome to Machine Learning Lesson 2.6. Up to now, you've learned how to, upload the information, extract information, add new data. So our job now turns to, analyzing the information. What can we gather from this data set? So let's get to it. So we're continuing working with our cars data set, which has the prices, the model, mileage, all that stuff. So we actually saw something, I believe it was in the first lesson, where we can describe our data. So let's do that. So let's get a new code block. Let's do df.describe. And what you can see here is that for all your numerical data, it gives you how many things are there, what's the mean price, mean year, mean mileage, your standard deviations. Apparently there's a car that's free, it's worth nothing. And at the same time, there's a car that's worth $84,000. We got a car as old as 1973 and a car as new as 2020. Okay. There's a car here with a lot of mileage, 1 million miles. I'm not quite sure what car survives that long, but hey, that's what the data is showing us. So again, we were familiar with the describe, and again, very useful way of looking at your data. Now we could take this a step further in that, let's say we don't want to, see all the information. We're just interested in one column. So we can do df, let's say price dot describe. So let's describe the prices. And what you can see here is that we get just a subset of that information. Now let's say we want to go a step further. We don't want to see all this information. We just want to know the average price. Well, you know what? We can do this. Price dot mean. Since it is one of the things that we can do from the scribe. And honestly, you could get the other four. So you get the standard deviation, you get the min, the max. You can actually get the count as well. Okay? So very easy way of getting information from your data. Now let's say we want to get a little more sophisticated with our describe. Let's say we want to be able to describe our information by the brand names. Okay, because right now our describe is based off the columns. But what if we want to do it based off of some of our information that's in one of the columns, specifically the brand? So there is an option for a data frame, a function called group by. Now, if you're familiar with SQL, hopefully this idea of group by, seems like ding ding. Wow, that's cool. I know how to use group by. Works very similar. So we're going to group by brand. Let's pull out the price and let's get the describe. So we're going to describe the price by brand. And again, it might make more sense once you actually see the information. So you can see here are all the brands, and here's the statistical information for each one. So we can see here that the average price of an Acura in our data set is about $7,000, where an Audi is about $13,000. And let's just kind of do a quick look. Let's see who has the highest average. So we see here that there's a Harley Davidson for $54,000. Now we're talking about averages. So hopefully, you have good, feel for averages, and you realize that when there's only one item that you're taking the average of, it's not much of an average. It's just a single item. Same thing if you notice for standard deviation, there's not a number because it's just one item. So that's something else to take note, especially now that we've done the group by. We can see, our data set seems to be populated with a lot of forward. Again, think about the information. So our information might be slightly skewed because the majority of the cars in our data set are forwards. It's not a very good representation, I would say, of cars that are out there on the road. Apparently there's a lot of Nissan. I personally have a Nissan myself. So again, the group by is very useful. let's take it a little bit further. So let's say we don't want to see all the cars. We know that within Ford, there's a lot of different models. We could go back to our original data set. So notice there's brands, but there's also models. So maybe you want to see the price, the statistical prices, since Ford has so many cars, over 1,000. Let's see how it breaks down by model. So to do that, we're going to use something you're familiar with it in the sense of the conditional. I believe it was lesson 3. How to select information. So we're going to select the brands, only the brands that equal Ford. So that way we're only getting the Fords. And now we're going to do a group by. So we're selecting just the Fords, and we're going to group them by model. And then from there, we'll take the price, and we'll describe it. Now realize when I do the describe, you can actually do all those other methods as well: the mean, the min, the max, standard deviation, the count. I choose to use the describe because it gives you all the information. So let's try it out. Okay, so these are the different models: door, doors, door. So again, some of this data might be dirty. I definitely recognize the Escape, the Expedition, the Explorer. Those are definitely popular cars from Ford. These are also popular cars, the F-150s, the 750s. The Focus, I recognize, only 9. Fusion, the economy car. Well, I would say economy, but it's 15,000. So let's see what else. Vans, wagons. So in any case, what you're seeing here is a distribution of the models for the Fords and their statistical information that goes with it, in terms of the mean, the min, the max. So you can see even with the bus, there's one that's cheap and the one that's a little more expensive. So again, more information that you can gather from your data that can help you, make an informed decision as to, what to do with the data. And again, this is going to play a big role when we start talking about machine learning. Again, we might not want to use all our data. We might find that there's a particular type of data in our data set that would be very useful for our machine to use as part of its learning process. Let's just looking at my notes real quick. Okay, so we're talking about ways to look at our data. So another useful thing to look at, especially when we start talking about analyzing information, is to see if there's any correlation between some of our data. Again, this is also going to play big into our machine learning models, because now we're looking at talking about, feature versus feature. See which ones help each other out. So what we can see here is that price and year, there's a positive correlation, and price and mileage has a negative correlation, which essentially means as the mileage goes up, your price is going to go down. As your years go up, meaning newer years, your price is also going to go up. Kind of makes sense. A newer car is worth more than an older car, typically. Again, if you're talking about antiques, that's a different story. So that's what this CORR does. It shows you the correlation between your features. And I believe there's only one more thing I want to show you, and that's the idea of, can we see how many, unique values we have in our data set, which can help you with data cleaning as well. So let's take a look at state dot, and we're going to look at unique. So these are all the unique states that appear up in our data. So you might say, well, how many states are there in this unique data set? So you could sit there and count, or you could do this, state. There is another function called nUnique, which simply just gives you number of unique states. And there's 44. So obviously we got 6 states not being represented here. I also want to show you another way you could have done this. Just kind of go old school, to bring in your programming knowledge if you know it. Is that, Python has a length function. So we could have done the length of this array and also gotten the 44 that way. And I never want you to lose, sight of the fact that, you have programming knowledge. You could definitely use it, but it's, it'd be best for you to, try to use the library for its full extent. Really exploit all the features that it has. So let's go back to our presentation. And in this video, we saw some statistical information that we can gather from our data, such as, mean, standard deviation, min, max. We also saw how we can group and filter information out. So we kind of narrowed down our scope and then get some statistical information about that. We saw how correlations can help us to further look at our data and see if there's any kind of I don't want to say dependency, but not to reuse the word, correlations between two features. Again, when you go into machine learning, again, that's very important. So at this point, this is the last video using pandas. Again, by all means, there's a lot more things you can explore with pandas, but I believe you have enough now to move on to our next series, which is mapping. Enjoy.